Okay, hello, testing. Hi, I'm George Aguilar. I am starting this the very first episode of Crystal Clear, a weekly podcast based on my personal experiences and insights now as I plod my way towards a more enlightened life. This podcast is called Crystal Clear because insights now are by their nature very sudden and crystal clear, but only for a while because after some time it starts to fade away. That's that's the nature of the mind. As we try to grasp at things, they tend to slip away. So insights actually lose their impact on our lives, and we slowly forget them now as soon as the mind starts grasping for it. Now, so that is the reason why I am doing this now as to provide a journal because I am very what do you call this? I'm not very fond of writing down on a journal. I'd rather record it now in these videos, and these videos can serve as some kind of a notebook for me so that I can keep track of certain insights that may have had a good effect on me, no? At first, and then I would forget about it. But also, I'm hoping that this podcast now will fall in the hands of my children. They're not ready to listen to my words of advice now, for now. But hopefully, when the time is right and as they grow older and they turn towards more spiritual matters, they will start listening, no, to their father. Okay, so I'm a father. I have two children. They both live in the States, separated from my wife, and separated also from my children, but only geographically. I try to keep in touch with them, and so do they. And I look forward to a time when we can be together again, even if just for a while. I'm a retired professor. I've been teaching in the academe for some 35 years. I'm a university professor. I have a degree in philosophy, also in conflict studies and in development studies. But more importantly, I've been practicing the Dharma for more than 40 years. Ever since I can remember, I've always been interested in some kind of spirituality. When I was a very young kid, I used to pass by the chapel before going to class, especially when there's a test or an exam. I would go to the chapel and pray to God to help me with my academic work. And as I grew up, I started asking questions which my religion teacher did not find appropriate for a young person. I was asking them certain things like, how is it that the different gospels tend to contradict themselves? I would ask questions like, did Jesus Christ really exist? But my reason for asking is not because I wanted to doubt. I just wanted to be sure of what I'm trying to put my life into. Sooner or later, I started to look for other paths. I became interested in, well, initially Zen because of my readings. Now, I read Be Here Now from Ramdas. I also read The Gospel According to Zen by Alan Watts. And these two people, Baba Ramdas and Alan Watts, were a great influence in my early life. And I used to read about their journeys into India, about their experiments, and about meeting all kinds of divine beings, things like that. I was also an avid reader of Lobsang Rampa, and I wanted to become a Tibetan Buddhist. And as wishes tend to come true, one time I was invited to a temple somewhere in Manila, in Chinatown. in Manila. There's a building, there's a bank outside, but when you enter the building, there's a big temple. There's a golden Buddha at least 30 feet tall. And at that night, the Karmapa, the 16th Karmapa was invited by the Chinese community. And he gave Tara empowerment, and also he gave refuge. So not really knowing what I was doing, I just joined my friend and I took refuge in the 16th Karmapa, making me a very young and ignorant member of the Karma Kagyu. That was around 1980, I think 1980 or early 80s. I really can't remember, but all I did remember, or as I look back now, I was really interested in that kind of Buddhism. I even attended two lectures from a Lama, Filipino, living somewhere in Marikina. And then the Karmapa died. So I tended, I fell out of that circle. Well, because the spiritual leader died and they didn't have a replacement right after. So anyway, maybe it's just an excuse, but I found myself looking other. I was looking to other sources of spiritual adventure. I was not really simple. I was just trying to, get into the groove, meeting people who meditated, trying to listen to different speakers, but not really simple as I am right now. Okay, I went with the Hare Krishna for a while. I joined Ananda Marga. I learned Zen from a Catholic nun. That's a true story. And I also met my friend who introduced me to the Karmapa and started practicing Vajrayana once more until I met the Buddhist at a local temple. And that's actually a turning point in my life because, you know, uh, I'm retired, getting old, and my heart is actually searching for a Sangha, a community to belong to. I have learned so many things, but one of the most important, which I can tell you right now, is it's not just important to uh, take refuge in the Buddha, but you also have to study. You have to take refuge in the Dharma. And then you need the Sangha, you need the community. And if I may say so, you need a guru because a guru will guide you uh, towards the right path, and the guru can see where your heart is. My problem is that for most of these 40 years that I've been practicing some kind of a Dharma, they have been guruless. I always thought that I could actually be my own guru or just read books or just try to uh, listen to one guru and another guru and get the best from a combination of their teachings. But I realized that that was wrong. There are certain stages in life wherein you really need something to take root in, a sangha and the teachings of a guru. This is what I'm trying to do even late in life. I think I still have time to attach myself to a temple, to a Buddhist group, and to a teacher. And I consider my teacher to be Master Xing Yun, the founder of Fo Guangxia Shan, who has died just recently, but his legacy lives on in the work that his organization FGS does now in trying to build the pure land here on earth, no, and spreading the wisdom of humanistic Buddhism. Okay, so you might say that I am a Buddhist. I've taken the refuge vows, and I've also taken some precept vows, and I intend to renew these vows in at the Mabuhay Temple of Fo Guangxiang, the Manila Mabuhay Temple there. They'll be having the same ceremonies, no? and I already signed up because I want to renew my vows as a Buddhist. No, I want to take refuge once more and to renew my vows, no, to uh, apply and follow the precepts in my life. Uh, but am I really a Buddhist? That's the topic actually of today's podcast. I entitled it Vedanta or Buddhism. So I have been practicing a lot of all forms of Dharma, from Bhakti Yoga to Tantra to Zen to Vajrayana, Chan and Pure Land. Okay, and I do consider myself to be a Buddhist, but I am. It is getting increasingly harder and harder for me to distinguish one spiritual practice from another. Well, maybe it's because I've had no guru for a long time, and I'm trying to rectify that right now. But philosophically, just try to think about it. What really is the difference between Vedanta and Buddhism, especially between Advaita, Vedanta, and Buddhism? And both are non-dualistic, and that is what I adhere to philosophically. Although I love the Vedanta and I love devotion as a way of spirituality, and I really see the strong influence that it has now to many people, including myself. But philosophically, I am attracted to non-dualism. Okay, simply because it logically it makes more sense to just have one rather than many. I don't know if you can understand that, but logically, there should be nothing. Okay, but since there is something, then might as well be one and not a lot, because a lot will require a lot of explanations, a lot of causes and effects to bring about the plurality of things. So logically and even spiritually, monism makes so much more sense. And that is just according to me. Okay. So Vedanta, if you really think about it, is just based on the Vedas, whereas Buddhism is based on the life and teachings of the Buddha. So one is orthodox in the sense that it has come from the Vedas and the Upanishads, and this makes it orthodox, let's say Hinduism, okay, for lack of a better word. It makes them orthodox, whereas the Buddha has always been unorthodox, and he even questioned some of the teachings of Vedanta during his time. But when you talk about impermanence, for example, when you talk about karma, when you talk about dependent origination, all of these things can fit both systems, really. Okay. When you say, for example, aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Okay, that can really make sense. That will not really make sense now if we just use our rational dualistic mind, because the mind's nature is based on that, no, form and duality. We think in a linear manner, uh, and we translate thoughts into language which is based on something that's binary or dual. So, unless you experience it as a deep state of meditation, it's really very hard to understand what is meant by all is Brahman, all is one, unless your mind becomes empty. Because when your mind is empty, then that's the only way that you can actually feel and not just realize intellectually that all is one. All is one in the sense that all is empty. So what I'm trying to say here is that the truth now behind the Vedanta, that you are Brahman, no, that thou art, can only be attained now if you can actually lose the ego or lose the self and come to a state of emptiness. And only then will you be able to experience what it is to be one with everything because everything is empty. And by empty, we do not mean that they don't exist, but except that they don't have an independent existence of their own. That their existence depends on the existence of everything else. And this is one of the core teachings of Buddhism, dependent origination, that we are all interconnected somehow, and that everything is just causes and conditions getting into effect, creating more causes, creating more conditions, and that's what reality is. And when you say, for example, that that is just Brahman, that's just the Rasa Lila, or the will of God, no, as it plays out in the universe. Well, that's one way of saying it. It's a very poetic way of saying it. But you can also describe that, with the Buddha's teaching on dependent origination, and also impermanence, which is very important in Buddhism. Everything is impermanent, and in the Vedanta, they have the same teaching too. That you're not the body will die. But when the body dies, something lives on. Okay, but even that which lives on will have to undergo life after life. Everything is impermanent. And in fact, now when I was with the Ananda Marga, we did some meditation in the cemetery, contemplating and meditating on death, because we had to realize not just to think about it, but to feel the impermanence of things. That is why we had some graveyard meditations. That was way back when I was much younger. Okay, and even the Buddhists have this practice. Sometimes they would contemplate in front of a corpse, trying to understand the impermanence of things. So both are also deeply rooted in both traditions, the Vedanta and Buddhism. And then also karma, no? The primacy of karma as a universal constant. This is both accepted in the Vedanta and also in Buddhism. That things happen because of the things that we've done in the past or the things that we have failed to do. And karma, what it does is it sows the seeds. And when the conditions come about to make it ripen, these seeds now will turn into a karma, whether that's good or bad. Okay. So if you think about it, aside from the superficial differences between Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta, or even Vedanta, because Vedanta, no, it can be pluralistic, but that has its counterparts in Mahayana Buddhism. In, for example, devotion to the Bodhisattvas can be seen as similar to, let's say, devotions to other divine beings. The Hindus believe that Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu, and so is the Buddha. Buddha is an incarnation of Vishnu. You know what is fascinating about Indian spirituality is that there's no way to actually challenge it. You can't just say that this is the truth and what you're teaching is not the truth, because all that Hinduism will do is to just absorb your teachings and make it one of its own. So Hinduism's like that, and Buddhism can be the same, especially if you're skillful in trying to really understand what Buddhism is and what it does. And if you have a skillful means of not just understanding but teaching it, Buddhism can adapt to any situation. It can adapt even to atheists, it can adapt to the secular Buddhists, it can adapt to Christians, no, who will just want to practice meditation. Buddhism is very, very flexible, it can adapt to anybody. Okay. And that's because it has developed into the Mahayana school. And the Mahayana school is actually the school of the middle path, wherein form is empty and empty is form. And when you have this, no, when you have this as the foundation of your belief, that form is empty and emptiness is form, it can actually accommodate a lot of seemingly different views. And make it one, make it one in emptiness. Okay. So that is basically what I want to talk about. I just wrote something here, and if you don't mind, I'd like to read it. Okay. Is there really a difference between all is Brahman and all is empty? To try and grasp non duality intellectually is frustrating and nearly impossible because our mind by nature is form based duality. The only way to experience aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman, is to be empty. In other words, the Brahman emerges when the self or ego is dissolved. One can call it God, Brahman, Buddha, Buddha nature, the Bodhisattva. But when the mind is empty, there is no difference between all these names and forms. They just become equal in their emptiness. Okay? They simply are. Thusness, it simply is, and it's beyond beautiful. It feels good too. Unfortunately, emptiness, just like insights, also fade away quite fast. The moment you try to enjoy emptiness, the more you try to grasp it, it leaves, you know, it goes, okay? Uh, it goes away as soon as one tries to grasp it. That's what I wrote down here. The trick is, I think, no, is to see it, to see form as inherently empty, and emptiness is form, and not to try to cling to any of the feelings that come out, no, because of that realization that all is empty. Because emptiness actually is a very, very pleasant state to be in, feeling. It is free from stress, free from anxiety. You can be yourself. And according to Padmasambhava, he said, just be yourself, just be comfortable. And that's just as good as the other teachings. You know, you don't have to be any other than yourself. Okay. So I will end this podcast by saying, be a good Christian, know the way of Christ. Be a good Hindu, that thou art. Be a good Buddhist, follow vows and precepts. Then transcend all of this and just be yourself. Okay? Be your true self and find out that the truth has been within all along. And this is crystal clear. So this is one of the insights that I would like to share, not just with you, but also to my former me. When I forget this, I can remind myself now just by looking at this podcast once more. And with metta in my heart, I pray that all of us will succeed in finding out the truth of our lives, the truth of who we really just are. Okay.